This one's like an exercise. We're gonna go see a play on this Sunday. Yeah. I'm cool with this. Some music wise. I can't do musicals. Oh, wow, I know you're talking about. I mean, I think they can. There's some that I enjoy, but like for the most part. I mean, I don't really care for musical theater. Oh, okay, I always forget.
I'm assuming I read the video. There's like an intro thing. It's basically reviewed everything. Okay, fair. Plus, I do what is that? It's a long time for reading. This.
Oh, yeah. Very excited. I just back up. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a I also Technically speaking, I like anything. I mean, I guess, yeah. I don't like. Yeah, here's mine. One just early big fans. But everything else is a lot of sponsors. And I say until like 4 a.m. Yes, I can use that. Everything in the green one. I think
design in there that I can use as well.
Yeah.
But I might be, I don't know, I have to, I just have to sign it.
Yeah.
Person. Yes.
Those are on
And so I'm gonna.
I actually didn't see that.
Early October, late September, about doing some
Yeah, I need to have it. I think it only seems like one of their like less. Oh yeah, I had stuff about before that. I don't know actually.
It's a formal workshop.
Hello, thanks for coming in. If you're just coming in right now, please scan that sign-in form so we can keep guys attendance for kickoff. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Pretty sure. By the time this year ends, I'll have 95 hours.
That's crazy. How did you do that? Why did you do that?
That, yeah. Yeah, like 30 hours or something from high school.
I'll like I guess that's just like real time effects.
Yeah. So you decided to
Oh, eclectic?
yeah.
I don't know. I didn't play a very nice game, so I probably should. I don't know. I just wasn't like. I know the visuals are way up there from like this. I was super into like small, like top down.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
have you never played a
Shut up.
so I
Did you not hear any of the things that were going on?
so I've been playing like these other things. And I've been playing last one was not very honest.
You never.
I never played it until this last time I saw it. Because it's like it's almost like the flagship
Yes.
game.
Yeah.
I want to play the first.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But no, this was
Yeah.
I was the only thing is
With like your childhood?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's like Wind Waker or something.
Yeah.
And I wanted it. So it's the only one
I just love looking at the soccer.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. Welcome to the EGaDS Electronic Game Developer Society Kickoff. We're glad you can make it. Once again, we have a sign-in form if you want to go ahead and scan that if you're coming in. But we're going to start a little bit just about what EGaDS is and all of our upcoming events before we pass it off to our speaker, Esteban. And of course, you guys heard that there's pizza also. We are currently working on getting that here. There's some delays, but we should be able to get that soon sometime during this presentation. But you know how it is. So first, a little bit about us. So who are we? We're the Electronic Game Developer Society. We are a group of students at UT with a passion for game development. And our mission is to grow students and foster a welcoming community, one that is interdisciplinary, community-oriented, professional, creative, and educational. We're open to every single discipline in game development, whether that's art, music, programming, design, business, anything like that. So first, you might want to learn more about who actually runs EGaDS. So my name is Zion. I am the president of EGaDS. I help run all of the main things with EGaDS and oversee kind of everything about EGaDS. But it would not be possible without the help of my fellow officers. So I'll go through each of these officers and see who's here and who is not. So first we have Safine. Everyone, a round of applause. So Safine is our art workshops officer. So we will have a series of art workshops this semester. In the fall, it is in 2D art, and in the spring, it turns over to 3D. So during our workshops, when we teach art and stuff like that, Safine will be there to answer all of your questions with his amazing skill set. Next, we have Bria, who is currently not here, but she is the Community and Socials Director for EGaDS. So all of our social events, whether it's our movie nights, our costume socials, and all of our fun events like that, she is in charge of that. Next, we also have Crystal, who's not here today, but she is the Outreach and Recruitment Director for EGaDS. So if you've heard of EGaDS, it was probably because of her. You've probably seen her at tabling at different events, such as during summer orientation and all of the other events of tabling as well. And then we also have Angela, who's over there in the corner with the camera. Round of applause. And Angela is in charge of everything related to the media of EGaDS, so handling the website, handling all the technical stuff that helps EGaDS run as it is. We also have another series officer, so we have Bobby, right over there. Round of applause. Bobby's our main events director, so in charge of in planning a lot of our main events like Texas Game Jam, GT Squared, and as well as helping with a lot of the logistics to make all these great events run properly and go smoothly. We also have Leo. Leo here, over there. Leo is our great communications director, so all the announcements that you see that puts EGaDS in the amazing light that it deserves is thanks to him. We have Kathy, who I believe is not here today, but she is the industry officer, so we're getting a lot of our connections, industry, things like that. And in our future speaker nights, she's in charge of that. We also have Max. Max is in charge of dealing with sponsorships, getting us connected to the games industry, and getting that sweet money that helps you guys run the way it is. We also have Julie, right there. All of the amazing arts and design that you saw in all of our posters and promotional material for EGaDS is thanks to her as well. And then we also have Ethan. Ethan is actually on the way right now to pick up the pizza, but he is our treasurer. He makes sure that EGaDS has funds, and purchases all the things that we need to run our events, things like food and all the amazing merch and stuff like that. And then finally, we have Giancarlo, right here. Giancarlo is our Unity Workshops officer, so as we also begin with our workshops in Unity, how to make games in Unity, he will be in charge of that with all the questions, concerns that you have to learn how to make games in Unity. So let's go into our events. So one, we have speaker nights. We'll have speaker nights every 3 weeks, excluding today's speaker. Starting Friday, September 27th, we're planning to have one for the Texas Game Jam Kickoff as well, which we'll talk more about. And speaker nights are a way to hear from industry professionals, sponsors, and EGaDS alumni on a variety of topics. It's a way for you to understand different roles in the game industry, whether that be your typical game programming or design, tech art, all of these sorts of different interesting fields, and see if you have an interest in pursuing those fields. And you get a chance to ask them questions to see if it's something you want to pursue, or simply just to network with them. And you can ask questions about working games, and past speakers from all these prior companies such as Epic Games, Unity, Zynga, Bethesda, and King's Island Entertainment. So one of our other events is workshops. So we have, as I said, Unity and art workshops. So in terms of the schedule, we have the workshops will be 2 Thursdays each month, kind of might differ on the month, and it will be 6 to 8 p.m. in GDC 5.304 generally. It will alternate between Unity and art. So one week will be how to make games in Unity programming, and the other week will be about art, making art for games. Yeah, and our first intro Unity and art workshop, kind of like a combined workshop, will be on Tuesday, September 10th. So definitely show up if you're interested in learning more. Yeah, these are a great way to gain skills for game development. It starts out basic and it gets more advanced. So, these are kind of a thing that you're welcome to attend any of them, but it is a good idea that you kind of start from the beginning so you can build up your skills along the way. Yeah, and as I said, we focus on 2D in the fall, both in game development and in art, and as well as 3D into the spring. So give you a chance to explore kind of 2 ways of doing game development. So we have dev nights as well. So dev nights are every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Discord, hosted by Bobby. And these are just meant to be a chill time to study, work, develop video games. So yeah, in the past, usually these have been online through Discord, but we are thinking of having a few in-person ones this semester, to help foster the community and help you meet more of your fellow EGaDSians, so you can meet and work on different projects. There will be casual alumni industry visits as we have many on Discord. So yeah, these are just meant to be a very casual type of event. You don't have to come in with a specific game intense project you're working on. You can come in with whatever you work like to, and just chill, casual, talk with your fellow members. So another type of little event that we have online is Game Sprouts. So these happen the first 3 weeks of every month. The new prompts are announced on Discord on the first of each month. So September's prompt is going on right now. The prompt is cookie. So yeah, so basically you submit something by 7 a.m. on the 23rd. So these are kind of like a general small project, small thingy to work on the aspect of the game. So it's not like a full game, but these are kind of like you get a theme and you can work on a small piece of the game, whether that's like a piece of music, some character art concepts, or like a little game mechanic. So these are meant to be like a very small way to build your game skills. So as a way to kind of work on your portfolio, showcase your abilities. And I think when you do these game starts, you also get some points on the Discord. You can flex that among your fellow EGaDSians. And yeah. We also have social events. So we have lots of different kinds of social events we do every year. These are roughly every month, and these are a way to have fun with fellow EGaDSians and community members. So I believe with those pictures, the one on the bottom left, that was like one of our painting socials from a previous year. Then in the top middle, that's like a Halloween costume social, it's pretty fun. And then I think that third one was also like a Halloween related one, painting pumpkins and all that. All right, so those are kind of our general events, but now let's get into our big upcoming events. So our first social is going to be a movie night social. It's going to be 6 to 8 p.m. Monday, September 16th, room to be determined. And you can come and watch a Ghibli movie with us. There's going to be free snacks. We'll determine the movie on the day of. And yeah, this is a great first social. It's usually one that we do every year. It's pretty fun. Good first way to meet your fellow members. And yeah. All right, so one of our upcoming events. So you may hear more about kind of the different game dev orgs in Austin through EGaDS. So we have this upcoming event called EGaDS it's a sort of collaboration event with EGaDS and Games Y'all, as well as some other groups. So IGDA, I think that's one game dev org, and then WIGA, I believe, is the Women's Game Dev Org of Austin. And this is a kind of a 4-org collaboration event. It's going to be Friday, September 20th, 7 to 10 p.m. at the Museum of Human Achievement. So this is a kind of a great place to showcase games and stuff. GamesZone typically does this thing every month where you can apply to submit a game and then showcase your game to people locally in Austin. This is something I did once. It's a really great experience. You can meet lots of new people, beyond UT, with real people, the game devs of the community. So yeah, definitely check it out if you're interested. There's a QR code up there. Yeah, this is a great way to showcase your game, meet new friends, learn more about other orgs, and have fun. So we'll leave a few seconds for that QR code. And we will also post these slides after, so if you ever miss any of these QR codes, we will have that as well. Because there are going to be a lot of QR codes throughout this presentation. All right, moving along. All right, so this is the big event to be worried about for the semester, is Texas Game Jam. So this is our biggest event of the semester, and this is our Game Jam. So if you don't know what a Game Jam is a competition where you have a short period of time to work on a game. And with EGaDS, every year there's a theme. So for example, last year our theme was It's a Trap. So there was games, with like mouse traps, you're getting trapped in the forest and things like that. So every year there's like a theme that gets announced at Texas Game Jam Kickoff for your creativity. And for this Game Jam, you can either work solo, you can work on a team, you can either build a team with people you know, or get team matched. We have an amazing team matching form to help you get paired up with people with various experiences. And I would definitely recommend it. This is meant to be a very beginner-friendly event. Even if you don't know anything, definitely recommend to do Texas Game Jam. It's a fun experience. So yeah, kickoff will be Friday, September 27th, about 6:30. It's also going to be in this auditorium. It's hybrid. It's online or in person. But if you do choose to come in person, we do have lots of food throughout the event, and we will also have, we're planning to have a lot of sponsors as well to kind of network with during the event as well as you work on your Game Jam. Yeah, and as I said, anyone of any skill level is welcome. So on the left, we have our sign-up form. So that's how you can sign up for the jam. So yeah, do that if you are interested in participating. And then on the right, we have the jam Discord. So that's actually the way that we're going to be communicating during the jam. So join that as well if you're interested. And I will leave these slides up for a little bit. But yeah. A few more. All right, move on. So we will also have Texas Game Jam workshops. So prior to the jam, we're planning to have these workshops to help you prepare for the Game Jam. So we have Tuesday, September 24th, one that is planned. So this will be kind of another Unity plus art workshop. The first hour will be going to Unity basics and then digital art basics as well. So we'll talk about building these skills for games, let you practice with that, but also kind of give you some tips and tips and things like that for doing your first kind of Game Jam. So definitely helpful if you want to participate and kind of be more prepared before you enter the Game Jam. And then with Texas Game Jam, we also have Texas Game Jam Aftermath. So so we have a few things that we do for that. So we're planning to have an in-person showcase. So after everyone submits their game for Texas Game Jam, we'll have an in-person showcase where on Tuesday, October 1st, 6 to 8 p.m. To be determined, you guys will be able to come with your teams and display your games, and then it'll kind of be like this whole sort of festival where everyone's trying out each other's games, and we'll do a great time. It's completely optional, but I definitely recommend. As a great way to present your game after you work on it so hard during Texas Game Jam. And then after that, we have the results stream. So something I forgot to mention about Texas Game Jam is that there are awards based on different categories that you can win through the Game Jam. So we'll have stuff like best overall and different categories like best design, best best music, best innovative mechanics, things like that that you can put your game in and get a chance to win an award. and we will announce the results of all the award winners on that stream as well. All right, so one little more section about opportunities. So one thing that we've been launching for this semester is kind of a collaboration with the other one, Texas Convergent. So what's going on is Texas Convergent, if you don't know, they kind of work a lot with different kinds of local startups and things like that. So there's this opportunity where they're now working with a game development, or rather a company interested in developing a game for a social cause related to sort of natural disasters and bring awareness, things like that. So this is a great opportunity. There's an application link with that QR code. It's an opportunity to kind of work with this kind of startup and be a developer on this team. And there's more details at that link. And there's going to be more information, but this will be a definite commitment starting this semester and continuing to next semester as well. There will be meeting times, but Convergent reached out to us because EGaDS has a lot of talent within games. So this will be a definite great way to expand your skills and learn more through real experience in game development. And applications are due on September 8th. So that's coming up real soon. So definitely check out that link. To make games for a really great cause. And I'll give you a few seconds for that QR code as well. All right, moving on to ways you can stay connected with EGaDS. So all of our social media. So on top we have our website. Our website has one amazing transformation. So definitely check it out to see what we have going on there. We have our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, definitely join now because that is our main way that we communicate and send all of our announcements and things like that. Our itch page, so that's a way to see all of our members' games that have been developed. You can see a lot of cool stuff from a lot of our different game jams and different events, things like that. Twitter, we also send announcements on there. And then our YouTube channel, where we send kind of videos and things like that. And then, yeah, we have our Instagram page right now as well for EGaDS, but we may not be linked up there, but definitely check that out as well. It should also be EGaDS Austin or Texas EGaDS, something like that. But yeah. So joining EGaDS, so obviously all of our members are open to any of our events, but joining EGaDS is kind of just an extra thing to get some benefits from EGaDS. So it's only $10, Venmo, Texas EGaDS, you include your full name, Discord, EID, and t-shirt size. So what this gives you is a few things. It gives you exclusive access to the GAD Career Fair, lifetime access to the EGaDS LinkedIn group. But the main thing is the access to our exclusive t-shirt. So in terms of t-shirts, right? So our last year, 2023 to 2024 shirt is the one I'm wearing right now, and probably some of our other members as well. And we still have this shirt out because this kind of came in late this summer, so we're still out for some of this shirt as well. But we will have a new design coming next semester for our next t-shirt. So definitely keep your eyes on that. And if you have any questions, you can contact our treasurer, Ethan Ho, who is sat out on Discord. If you have any questions or want to verify your payment, and if you're interested in getting shirts, make sure you kind of verify with us before making that payment. We have that shirt. Yeah, that kind of ties into this next slide. So even if you don't want a new shirt, you can also get a shirt from EGaDS previous years. So these are kind of 3 of our shirts. Top left is the one on right now. So this shirt is actually, I forgot to describe. This shirt is kind of different games from our members. So we kind of had a poll last year where these are submitted games, and we kind of included characters from their games on our design. In the top right, of course, we have an Omori inspired design, and on the bottom we have a Legend of Zelda inspired design from our previous years. So yeah, the price of this is also $10, and if you are interested in getting one, DM or talk to an officer after an in-person event, and check in with officers before paying to make sure that we have your size as well, just so that there's no false alarms, things like that. All right, so one more thing. So we have junior officer applications. So obviously we have the great officer team here at EGaDS, but we do also recruit junior officers. So kind of how this works is junior officers will shadow current EGaDS officers to understand their role and kind of learn more about what it means to be an officer. And then you can learn more about how we run the org and shadow current officers. And usually this is a great way that if you want to become an EGaDS officer and kind of learn more, it's a great idea to become a junior officer first. That's how I kind of became part of EGaDS my time. By becoming a junior officer, so definitely check it out. That QR code leads to our application to being a junior officer. So yeah, if you are interested, check out that QR code. I will leave it up for a little bit as well. So next, some of our related organizations which I want to mention is Longhorn Gaming, which we actually went to their expo event last Friday. Also Women in Gaming, so definitely check out all of their events as well. Special thanks to the sponsors right now. We have Zynga and Skeleton Key for their help with EGaDS and helping support all of our events. All right, so that is a thank you from EGaDS. Now we will transition to our speaker, and we'll give it up to Esteban. Esteban is a lead designer technologist at Booz Allen Hamilton. Previously worked as a level designer for learning, and is a former UT student for RTL. I'll give it up to him. Please give a round of applause.
Hi, hello. How's everybody doing today? Oh yeah, doing good? So currently, I serve as a lead technologist, immersive designer at Booz Allen Hamilton. My name is Esteban Zaldivar. I attended the University of Texas from 2011 to 2015. I was part of EGaDS, and I graduated in 2015. So right now, I work for Booz Allen Hamilton. Booz Allen Hamilton is a government contractor. We design serious simulations, serious games, visualizations for the government sectors. But my start was in the game industry. I started in the game industry, I worked for a few game companies, and then I transitioned over to working on serious games and simulations. So it's really, as you hear me talk about it, think of it as an extension of games and an extension of entertainment and an extension of what you all can do with your skill set, whether it's immersive media or software. At the end of the day, it's all software. It's all geared towards the user experience and design. This is some of the stuff that I do right now. So a couple of pictures here. Up here, that's me at MetaConnect last year. So I went to MetaConnect during last year. They unveiled Quest 3. So I was there. It was 14 minutes was the time that was listed before Mark Zuckerberg walked the stage and he unveiled the Quest 3. Pictured here are a couple of the apps that we do. Like I said, we do training simulations and visualizations for the government. What does that exactly mean? So whenever a government entity, could be Department of Homeland Security, could be the Department of Defense, could be a branch of the military, could be FEMA, the VA. Whenever a government agency needs an application, virtual reality application, immersive application, who do they go to? They go to a government contractor. They go to a company like us who develops the application for them. So just pictured here, that one right there, the one with the handgun, that is a firearm training simulation that we're doing for the Department of Veteran Affairs. We've done laboratory trainers for the CDC, Center for Disease Control. We've done terrain visualizations for numerous clients. There's a lot of clients that are especially interested in digital twins, visualization of terrains, architecture, and how you overlay that onto models. So that is something that's requested a lot by the government. And then there's a couple pictures of me. So this is me at the Austin Unity office, which is located on East 4th Street, downtown Austin. There's regular meetups there, by the way, at the downtown Unity Austin. This is me traveling on site, so sometimes I'll get to travel with my job. I'm not always developing or designing. Sometimes I get to travel and I get to test the applications we develop. So like I said, right now we're working on a lot of things for the Quest 3, but that was me performing user testing at a government facility, the VA, and we were trying to just document how users go through the application. Are they learning? Are they picking up on the cues that we need them to pick up? And then these are some of the more serious games that we've done. This happens to be that's an M16 haptic rifle, where it's a simulated M16 haptic rifle that just acts like a controller. That one was made for the HTC Vive Pro, so it was a room clearing exercise that we did for the Army. But that's what I do today. That's my day job. Oh, here's a couple more. So like I said, we've done some stuff with digital twins, visualization, a lot of VR stuff these days. So I get to work on a lot of virtual reality, a lot of augmented reality. These are applications that are being deployed to sites. This one, she is a doctor. So she is going through an experience it's a VR experience focused on the patient discharge experience. So that one has an interesting story, but the day of discharge for a patient is an important day. The day of discharge is when a patient gets to go home. A lot of things happen on that day. Patient gets their medication, they talk to their health care providers, they talk to their social workers, and then they get to go home. What we did was we designed a virtual reality that puts you in the shoes of a patient so that you can experience the empathy building that comes with that day of discharge experience. So that's another app we developed for the Quest 3. So that's where I am today. Now let's take it back about 10 years ago. So I graduated from the University of Texas in 2015. This is me. That was probably 2014 with Professor Paula Toprak, who I believe now is your director of the game development program here at UT. This is me around 2014. This is back when E3 was a big thing. Kind of dating myself there a little bit, but that was me attending my first E3, also at E3. And then this is me with the Oculus DK2. So the Oculus DK2 was a virtual reality headset released in 2013, but this was DK for development kit. So this was the precursor to the consumer version of the headset that was ultimately released, and now we're in the current version of Quest 3. But that was me experimenting with the first Oculus prototype, and I was, at the time I was still at UT, and I was just beginning to play around with the beginnings of a standalone headset for virtual reality. Oh, I will also mention that I was enrolled in RTF, which is interesting, and I know that most of you all are spread across the university, but as it was then, and I assume it's still the case now, but people that made their way to the capstone program or the game development program with Dr. Paul Toprak, they started out either in computer science or the School of Art or radio, television, film. This was before you guys had the AET or the Arts of Entertainment Technology that you have now, which I've heard is great. Before AET, you selected one of those majors and you just tried to align yourself as best as you could. It happened to be that I was in RTF, so I took a lot of the digital media courses. My undergrad was mostly like visual effects, animation, some of the 3D modeling courses, and then ultimately the capstone game development. So that's kind of like how my track looked back then, which I'm sure has evolved now. So developing an interest in game design. So around 2012, I started messing around with the Creation Kit, Creation Engine, which is the tool that was released by Bethesda to start modding Skyrim. So that was the first time I really started diving into a game engine. It was around that time which I also started picking up Unity 4. So now Unity follows a linear yearly release. We're currently in Unity 2024. Before then, they followed just a standalone number. It was Unity 1, Unity 2, Unity 3, Unity 4. But in 2012, Unity 4 was released. That was the first version of Unity. These were some of the classes I took at the time with some professors who may not be here anymore, but they were pretty influential in the stuff that I learned. 2D graphics for filming games by Professor Ben Mays. Intro to animation, Professor Jeff Marslett. 3D character animation with Whitey Aikens. Narrative design for games, Sheldon Picodi. Sheldon Picodi, great professor, great guy. Worked on Deus Ex. He was a writer on Deus Ex. And then intro to game dev capstone with Paul Topek. Along the way, I was also learning a little bit of Maya. So I knew I wanted to do something in game dev. I didn't know exactly what. So I was doing a little bit of everything. I was modeling Maya. I put a picture of GameSolid there because at the time, the intro class to game dev was actually taught in GameSolid. Which, if they're using Unity now, that's great. Because Unity is a much more applicable tool. But GameSolid was a visual programming engine, very, very simple. But I touched that too. So my career trajectory so far. So my first job, if you want to call it a job, was being an intern at a company called Team Chaos. Team Chaos was a company made by Zynga veterans. In 2014, while I was still a student, I got hired there as a game design intern. Initially part-time. I would get out of class, take the Capital Metro to South Congress, where their studio was. And then I ended up doing that full-time for the summer, which is great, because that gave me some really good experience. Then I graduated in 2015. My first official full-time gig was being a world builder, level designer at Porto Alegre. Did that for 3 years, building maps. I'll talk about it here shortly. In 2018, that company goes under. I then leave that, and I go over to join Booz Allen Hamilton, where I start working on virtual reality and XR for the government sector. I started off as an immersive designer, building UI and gameplay for VR apps. Then in 2020, I get promoted to lead immersive designer, where I am right now. So nowadays, I'm mostly managing teams, managing the feature sets, and trying to bring in more opportunities to the company. But I still design. So let's talk about my first entry-level job as a world builder level designer. So these were some maps that I worked on. I worked on the Shroud of the Avatar MMO with Richard Garriott. My main responsibility was to build maps. My job was to take the map, start sculpting out the points of interest. I would do the terrain sculpting, the terrain texturing, painting of flora, and then I would start laying the ground for the spawners and the quest designers. So this was my first job, my first official responsibility. As time would go on, I would start learning more, and as y'all can imagine, you're sitting next to these people every day, and that's one thing that you can take away from this talk is always be willing to learn. So you're going to the studio every day, and I started out building maps. As the years went by, I started learning how to spawn the maps, started learning how to do the quests for the maps, setting up interactables, that could be traps, lootables, whatever the quest holds and withholds. So these were some of the maps I built during my time as a world builder, level designer. My responsibilities were to create the levels. I think that over the course of 3 years, I built over 40 unique maps. Every one of those maps took about a month to fully complete. So just to give you an idea, let's pretend we started on week 1. Week 1 was just laying down the specific topography. If there's gonna be a mount range, how is this mount range gonna go? Where's the river gonna flow? Where's the town gonna be, right? Real rough sculpting. You're sharing this with your art director, your lead level designer, every week to make sure you're on the right path. Once that's cemented, then you can start texturing and placing key assets. You're not gonna start placing key assets and texturing if stuff is gonna move, right? Like if your art director says, oh, that mount can't be there, that is a decision that has to be made early on. So, you do your white boxing, then comes the next pass. And as with a lot of things in game design, you guys will realize it's all about iteration. Path, passes. So by week 2, week 3, we mostly have an idea of where we're gonna take the map. By week 4, you're really starting to see more, it starts looking more like this. I didn't have any pictures of the gray boxes that we did, but by week 4, week 5, you start seeing the actual propping. Interiors start getting their furniture, lootables start getting placed, interactive stuff like doors starts being implemented. All of these were built with modular kits. Sometimes modular kits are used, especially for some of these like dungeon sets, where my job as a level designer, once again, I was not modeling the art. My job was to put together what the art team was supplying me with. So, you have your art team, which is, could be in the dozens in some companies, but at Port Larry we had about 10 artists. And then they were feeding me the art pieces, right? So these guys are modeling day in, day out. They're giving me the modular kits, the pieces. I'm putting those together in Engine. I'm working with the interaction designers and the programmers. And you're also collaborating a lot with those guys as well, because you're letting your programmers know, hey, could you guys hook me up with a system that's gonna allow me to set up a trapdoor? They'll write up a couple scripts and they'll hand them over to me. So yeah, so basically I'm like the assembler at this point, getting stuff from the art team, getting stuff from the engineering team, and then putting it all together. All right, oh yeah, I do have a picture of this. So this is a map in its early stages, right? So this was me building some mountains early on, just doing terraforming. This is me coming in and doing some texturization, painting terrain textures. All this was in Unity, by the way. And then this is me starting to place down trees. Up there we have a couple of white boxing. Those were some elven arches that we had in some of the elven-inspired towns in the game. And that was just me white boxing and adding some elven elements to them. For stuff like that, where we had large cities in game, we also had something called player-owned towns. And so there was player-owned towns and there was player lots. So in our MMORPG, players could actually own property inside the game. But that was something that we had to account for too as level designers. So what you see there is an overhead shot of an in-game city, and then the green boxes were some of the player lots that we placed down. Learning to work in a creative team. So that's one of the things that all of you or any of you that choose to go into the industry will learn. So this is the basic pyramid for the most part. At the top you got your executive leadership. Below that you got your directors and producers. You got your departments, QA, engineering, design, art, marketing. For most of my career, I've been part of the design here. Various levels of designers that you're gonna work with, and when you're working in your game jam games, you'll notice that you guys are gonna do a lot, because I did that myself too. Like, you do a lot. To make a game by yourself, it's a lot of work. But the reality is that in a company, the bigger the company sometimes, the more subdivisions you have. So at some of the larger studios, even at Port Larry and Blue Island, where I work at right now, there is a subdivision of work. So as an interaction designer, you can work on interactions. As a character artist, you can work on character art. As a terrain artist, you can work on terrains. But for the most part, I think the companies that have been the most positive on me have been those companies that allow you to learn and stretch that a bit. Meaning, you can go there and you're not just bound to this position. You know, you can talk to your other departments. You can interchange dialogue. And that's something that I've really liked about my career and the companies that I've been fortunate to work with, and especially now at Busan and Hamilton. I want everybody to feel comfortable with bringing up an idea. I want the engineers to feel comfortable like they can talk to the artists. You know, you can choose to go to your lead, you can include your lead, you should always include your lead, always include your manager, but the idea is that fostering this environment where anybody can come up with an idea and share that idea is pretty important. So this is a breakdown of all the iterations that we did. So early on, like I said, being a level designer, we established the design. We initiated the terraforming early on, laying down the points of interest, several levels of detail paths for textures, detail paths for urban structures, detail paths for foliage, propping. And then at that point, technically the world building is complete, at least the static elements of that. And after that comes the quest implementation, NPC character spawning, interactives, traps, resources. You know, resources is a big thing. Like how many times do you hear people gripe online about not being enough lootables or the looting and all that great? Somebody's job has just to focus on that. And then playthrough game balancing, right? Once you've done all that, you gotta run through your level. Does it make sense? Is there more encounters here than there is over here? Is the loot proportionally scattered across the map? So that's just another look at our process. So at this point, I'm still a level designer. I'm still doing this all day, every day. But then in 2018, Portalarium goes under. The video game company that I work for goes under. So at that point, I know I have this skill set, right? I know Unity. I've been doing this for a couple of years. So I start doing a job hunt, and I get hired at Busan and Hamilton. Now, their initial job posting, like I said, was to design government simulations. And I thought, well, you know, this is different, right? It's different than games. But at its core, it's all the same skills. Like I said, we're building 3D environments. You have to consider user experience. There's an end goal. There's always an end goal. Every app has an end goal. So this is just another look at some of the apps. You know, we've done dashboards for the military. We've done, once again, this one's interesting. This one, we did it for the HoloLens, but it basically projects a hologram of an alternator for a Humvee military vehicle. So they wanted basically like an augmented reality mechanic. That was for the HoloLens. But all these applications are for different hardware types too. As you hear me say, we've done stuff with Quest 3, Quest 2, Quest 1, HoloLens, Cosmos, HTC Vive, you name it, we've worked on it. So if you guys have any questions about any of those headsets, you know, feel free to ask. Also, I own about 12 VR headsets, just so y'all know. You can also ask me about that. Let's see, I'm curious, can anyone here name each one of those headsets? Come on, brave soul. Who can name? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 headsets over here. You got that right on? Yeah, that one's a Quest 2, that's correct. What about that purple one?
Context clues.
I'll take it. It's a Vive, but you know what? It's a Vive Pro. That Vive, and the only reason you know is because of the, there's a lighter blue around the circles in the front. The forward-facing cameras, there's a lighter blue. That's a Vive Pro. There's no Apple Vision Pro on here. I should have pictured that. This is a HoloLens 2. This is a Cosmos, and then this is a MetaQuest Pro. Yeah, go down. Pretty good, pretty good. But these are all, these are all some of the platforms that we develop for. So now, like I started talking about, I started out as a level designer, and then I transitioned over to working in VR, AR. So how did that happen? A little bit more in detail. So initially, when I first got hired, I was building UIs. So I was building the user interfaces that you see within our training applications. I was building the menus, the context, the images, the styling of the menus, how do those menus come up? Which, if you think about it, all of these platforms sometimes don't have the same type of input, right? Some of these have different controllers. Some, like the Apple Vision Pro and the HoloLens, don't even have controllers at all. So how do you bring up the menus? How do you bring up the functionality? Those are all things that an immersive designer does. That's what I do. So that's how I started out when I got hired at Booz Allen Hamilton. So 2018, 2019, spent a lot of time building apps for these guys. And then in 2020, like I mentioned, I got bumped up to lead. And so now I mostly lead the teams. So I now work cross-department with our engineers, our designers, our artists to try to make the apps and deliver them and deploy them. Now that in of itself is another adventure because deploying apps to the government is a whole ordeal. We help with the acquisition of hardware, we load up the hardware, we set up the hardware. In the case of some of these immersive apps, sometimes there's not a backend, but with some of our desktop applications, sometimes there will be a backend. And so we take care of that as well. Whether we're building a digital twin or an architectural simulation or something that's going to gather data, there's got to be like a server component or a cloud component to that. So Booz Allen Hamilton has the resources to do that as well, where we focus on the architecture of the system as a whole. Oh, that's a picture of me at the Meta campus in Menlo Park, California. That was nice. I got to go, this was about 1.5 years ago, and I got the Quest Pro for free. They gave it to me. Yeah. So these are some takeaways that I prepared for you guys. Experiencing the industry, these are things that I learned over the past 10 years of working in software, games, virtual reality, augmented reality, XRs, all the XRs. So number one, always be open to learning and gaining experience. Learn on the job, be open to new approaches, pipelines, and methodologies. So I think one of the best things to do is learn from the people that you work with. I think I started out when I was 21. That was my first job. And I was working with people that were twice my age. So, being able to learn from them, being able to learn from people that worked at, all these great studios, some of which don't even exist anymore, but people that worked at Activision, EA, BioWare, Origin, companies that go way back. That was one thing that I was very fortunate of. Number two, understand that the industry can be unstable, but really just understand the industry, understand where the industry works, how it works. It's hard to comprehend sometimes. We'll hear about layoffs or we'll hear about acquisitions sometimes, but just understand that companies will come and go. Try to look for stability, keep an eye out for career growth, keep an eye out for upward momentum. That's something I've always tried to do. 3, don't be afraid to evolve your skills. So, like the case of me, where I went from being a level designer, where I was just a map builder, to now being a VR, XR, immersive designer. Always try to evolve. You'll find that people who don't evolve, people who just want to do one thing, it becomes kind of dangerous. You could run yourself out of a job. Like if you say, I just want to work on UI and I only want to work on UI, there's always going to be a need for a lot of things in the game. So try to expand your skill set as much as you can. And number 4, pursue your career with passion. have fun creating, choose a job you love, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. That's how I feel. So these are my key things to do to prepare for a job in the industry. Number one, build a strong portfolio. I recommend 4 to 5 strong pieces. Now, whether you're a programmer, you're a designer, or an artist, just focus on 4 to 5. If you're a programmer, have a GitHub. I want to see repos, code samples of apps that you've put together. If you're a designer, I want to see designs. Paper, sure, but digital is better. Figma, any elaborate wireframes you've done that show either game flows or maybe theoretical, hypothetical UI interfaces. And if you're art, have Sketchfab, ArtStation. The more the better in terms of assets. 2, you guys are kind of already doing it just by being here. Network and build your community. Attend meetups, conferences, hackathons, job fairs, anything to get your name out there. And 3, be persistent. Chase down opportunities, apply, gain interview experience. I'll give you all the raw numbers. On my first job out of college, I applied to 55 companies. Out of 55 companies, only 9 actually responded to me. The rest, the application went into the ether. Only 9 responded to me. Out of those 9, I got 4 interviews and ultimately 1 offer. So that's the reality. Be prepared for that. Keep building, make projects, make mods, push to your GitHub, update the Sketchfab, keep active, but most importantly, keep creating and keep refining. So even if you're still waiting on that job offer, or you're just waiting, maybe you still got 2 more years to finish college. Keep building that portfolio, because that's really what's gonna make you stand out. A couple of resources, and I'm glad to hear that some of these have already been mentioned. But the Austin is really a great place. I love being in Austin. Austin community, we got the Austin Unity Developer Meetup, Unreal Engine Austin, Game Worlds. I just heard Game Y'all. Women in Games, Austin Games at Beer Night, John Anderson over there. All these are great events. Sometimes you'll see me. Sometimes I can't make it. It's kind of hard to make it sometimes when you work every day. But there's also other online in-person events. These are some key resources that I use sometimes. Developer.oculus.com, I just mentioned that one because if you are very much interested into building for the Quest or building for Meta headsets, developer.oculus.com is a great way to get started with building for virtual reality. They have really good resources. Conferences, South by Southwest, GC, It's like Pack, Unite, MetaConnect. I love going to MetaConnect. And then hackathons. I don't know if y'all knew this, but Meta has a hackathon every year. It used to be called the Meta Presence Hackathon. Sometimes they change the name of it every year or so, but it's usually the Meta Presence Hackathon or the Meta XR Hackathon. That one happens, and if you get in, you basically get to go to Menlo Park for free. That's how I got to go to the Facebook campus for free. It's pretty cool. That's a picture of me at VR Austin. That's a picture of me at Oculus Launchpad, which Oculus Launchpad is another developer group hosted by Meta. But Oculus Launchpad is for indie developers that want to put their game on the Quest store. So if you are trying to make a game for the Quest 3, Meta has this program called Launchpad, and they will support you. They will support you. They'll give you access to their team of engineers and team of developers, so that as you're building your game for Quest, you can talk to them, and then eventually they'll help you deploy it on the Quest store. So it's kind of like a win-win. You get your content out there, and then Meta is getting feedback on its pipeline infrastructure and SDK tools. And honestly, Meta loves that, because some of the SDK tools have been getting refined over the years. If we look back at the first SDKs for the Quest 3 or for the Quest 1, they were pretty simple. And over the years, if you're following the development for Quest, you know, it's gone pretty, it's expanded pretty fast. And so now, you know, putting something together for Quest 3, if you have the time and the resources, it's not as difficult as it used to be. All right, well, thank you all. I'll open it up for questions, comments. That's my LinkedIn, by the way. Feel free to scan that QR code. I'll just send you to my LinkedIn. But yeah, feel free to ask me any questions. Either how was UT back in 2013, or you know, what kind of headsets have I worked with, or anything like that. Oh, sure, you first. Yeah.
Oh, does Booz Allen just work in Unity, or do they do any Unreal?
We do Unreal too.
Oh.
Yeah, so right now we have about 6 active projects. Only one of those projects is in Unreal, the other 5 are in Unity. So very much more heavily focused on Unity, but I do think we'll probably keep expanding into Unreal just because of some of the nice upgrades in technology it has, like Nanite, Lumen, like those things are really impressive. John?
So why don't you look back at your UT Austin career, put us in perspective of what you were doing for class and what you're doing outside of class, and put EGaDS in perspective. What was all that important for your objective to eventually get a job?
It's a great question, John. It's a great question. So, you know, when I was, if we go back, I did not think I would be working at Booz Allen right now. What I did know for sure at y'all's age was that I knew that I wanted to build games. I wanted to build levels. So I tried to sign up for every course that I could. I'm sure there's more courses now, but I signed up for every course I could. If it had the name 3D animation or game, I signed up for it. I tried my best in every single of those projects. Why? Because I didn't want those projects to go into the trash. At the time, I thought to myself, well, you know, if I'm gonna spend like 30 hours working on this project, I want to make something out of it. I want to be able to show it on my website. So I tried to walk out of my classes with strong projects. With EGaDS, that also shares the same line. Think about your game jams. Think about the stuff that you produce for your game jams. Not everything has to be polished, but at the very least, use it as a learning step, as a step to take your progression forward. It may not always be portfolio worthy, even though that's most likely the goal, right? You want to build your portfolio. It can also be skill set worthy. Use it to build your skills. You want to try something, you know, try it, hone in on it. Personally, I'm one that would advise not to be too scatterbrained in the sense of like doing art, doing design, doing engineering. Try to find an area where you can focus yourself and become really good and polished in that one area. That's just my personal advice. Why? Because the people that we hire, we don't hire generalists. We hire people that are good at a trade. And for entry-level jobs in particular, that's where we want to be. Now for senior level and management, that changes, right? We're looking at different things. But for the entry-level jobs, we want to see, like, can you do this? And can you do it well? And so that usually comes with a very specified skill set. So EGaDS help with that. Yeah, I was always building something, as you all can tell, like whether it was a mod or going to South by Southwest and showing off games there. The way I got the Oculus development kit too was because I went to a meetup, I met a friend. That friend had relations with Facebook at the time and Oculus. And when it came time to send out the developer kits, they just knew me. And they said, hey, Esteban, do you want a developer kit? And I thought, yeah, hell yeah, I want a developer kit. And so they sent me a developer kit, and that's how I ended up with an Oculus DK2. Moral of the story is, you know, sometimes it's just word of mouth, right? If I would not have known that friend, Would I have gotten that developer kit? Probably not. Same with, actually that Java Portfolio came from someone I met at the Unity meetup here in Austin. So a lot of that is just networking, socializing, getting your name out there. Yes, you.
So I imagine that going from games, like interactive experiences, like making the experience fun isn't at like the forefront of everyone's mind as much as it making it like functional. I was wondering from your perspective, has like your passion like changed at all because of that, or how do you find passion now coming from that area?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. It depends on the app because some apps by nature are going to be more serious than others. Not every app we make has to have a very serious tone. But I think for me now, you still have to consider navigation, you still have to consider ease of use, you still have to consider aesthetics. Whether you're building a game, whether you're building a training simulation, there is still a design element that's very much rooted on the user experience. So how does it propel me forward? Through that. I think about, okay, well, what's the goal of this application? Is it to, like for example, with some of those pictures we saw, like if the goal of this lab simulator is to train someone on a biosafety cabinet, are we designing this biosafety cabinet so that you can approach it correctly? Are the key parts of this biosafety cabinet ideal? Are we presenting the information in a manner in which is easy to understand? For some of those room clearing exercises with firearms, similar concept. There's a firearm, now you're not gonna go full on Call of Duty style, but there's still an element of, is the training being accomplished and is the gameplay or the goal, in this case it's an end goal, is it being achieved? So that's how I compartmentalize it in my brain. And I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it feels good to make an app that is being used as a training device. Like to me, I can go home and think to myself and say, cool, we're trying to push boundaries by visualization, training, and trying to inform our users rather than just simply entertain them all the time. But yeah, I mean, it varies on the apps because sometimes we do make apps that are a little bit more fun and game oriented, but it goes back and forth. Yeah. Did I see another hand somewhere over here? Yeah.
Would these slides be posted in the Discord?
Let's see, will they? Yeah, there's the answer. All right. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. My question, I had two questions. One was, you mentioned that you like when teams let you talk between teams, between artists and engineers, and really let you really understand all parts of the spectrum. And I was wondering how common that is from your experience.
It probably is common, but it's definitely not apparent across every company. I feel like with my team specifically, there is a level of comfort that comes with going cross-department as well. And even cross-department, because there's two ways of communication, right? There's cross-department, but there's also vertical, where you gotta feel comfortable talking to your managers and above. And really, that is only possible if the upper management or management makes you or allows that comfort to take place. So how frequent is it? I'm gonna say maybe 50-50. It happens to be that some of the smaller companies that I've worked with, that is very much the case where, because it's a smaller company, or when I mean smaller in the sense of less than 50 people, when it's less than 50 people, I feel like the structure is not big enough to where it gets diluted, and the vision is still pretty much intact, which by nature then allows for a level of comfort. You feel comfortable talking to your manager, you feel comfortable talking to your lead artist, you feel comfortable talking to your lead programmer. But it could very well be the case that at larger companies, that gets a little bit weakened. Now, I will say, maybe I should have mentioned this, Booz Allen Hamilton is a company of 30,000 people. I just happen to work in a team of 30. But in cases like this, sometimes you just have to work a little bit harder. When you're trying to get your vision across, especially as a designer, or when you're pitching ideas, you just have to make sure that you're expressing yourself in the best way so that your target audience can understand it. You'll find that I will talk differently when I'm talking to a coder than when I'm talking to, an upper level management whose job is only to sell contracts to the military, right? There's two different audiences there. So always know your audience, evolve with your conversation, but overall, to go back to your point, I think it's probably, I would say, it's half common, probably half of the industry does it, the other half doesn't, but depends on the company. Cool. Oh, great questions. Any final questions? Oh, here we go.
So it often seems like when you're interested in like the creative field like games, a lot of people are drawn to like the very nice the magic aspect of it, of like this seems very interesting and cool to do. But then when you dive into that, you start working on it, maybe it becomes more repetitive, or you learn everything that's not as interesting as you thought it was. Is this something you have to deal with, or kind of facing?
That's a great question. So his question was, does it ever get repetitive? Does the magic ever go away? It hasn't for me yet. And that's a great question because now I do a lot. I mean, we're all over the place in terms of platforms. Every contract, every client is a different app. Every few months, I'm having to work on a different app. Every few months, I'm having to work on a different team members, different app, different client. So no, every app is like its own challenge. But even if you go back to when I was a level designer, for 3 years. For 3 years, I did nothing but build maps. Was that boring? No, it actually wasn't. And the reason it wasn't was because even as a level designer, 1 month I was working on a desert. Next month I was working on a forest. Next month I was working on a castle. So to me, it was not boring because the theme of the game, I guess, the theme of the game, the way it presented itself to me was there was always something new, and there was always something new for me to grasp onto. Like I said, I think over the course of 3 years, I built more than 40 maps from scratch. So every map brought its own interesting challenges. Even something, I'm just getting a flashback right now, like working on a swamp. Okay, so we were working on a swamp once, and we were thinking to ourselves, okay, well, we're gonna set up a water plane in Unity, but then, are you gonna be able to swim? Well, is the entire swamp swimmable? Is only half of the swamp swimmable? And then what happens when they attack you and you're swimming and then you change to you walk out of the swamp and now or you walk into the swamp, then your state changes. So we ran into so many challenges, as I'm sure you guys will with your games, where like every environment that you design for is unique. So that was back then, but even now with VR, it's different because the hardware will be different. I was like, oh, well, we did it now for the Quest 3, but now we're gonna do it for the HTC Vive. Okay, all right, well, time to change the input. So no, not yet. There's so many challenges that come with tech. Performance, optimization, that always keep it interesting. Yeah. All right. Oh, we got. You went up first. Yes, gentlemen, right here.
I was just curious. As you were saying before, how especially when you're trying to get into like an actual position, that you need to have a specific area that you work on. As someone who doesn't really have that kind of specific interest, is there any that you recommend besides like level design or immersive design?
Well, this is the time for exploration. Really, this is it. So as you go through your days and your weeks and your months, think about what really fulfills you, what really makes you feel like this. Well, maybe not comes easy to you at first because everything takes practice, but what makes you feel the best? For me, I think growing up, I always found an interest in worlds. I think that's what started me out. So by the time I was your age in college, I wanted to keep building worlds. So when we look at those positions up there, which is the position that mostly deals with building worlds, well, it was the level designer. So that's kind of what gravitated towards me. That's where I latched onto it. I was like, okay, well, I can just start building things in Unity, start putting up the world. I didn't want to worry too much about like coding the systems. I didn't want to worry too much about like making an alpha map for an asset. I just wanted to put together the world at the time. So that's where I found myself satisfied. I guess that's the word, is what makes you feel satisfied. So was I gonna be as happy, setting up very intricate AI character behaviors? No, I personally wasn't. So I found what satisfied me, and then I just latched onto that. And then now as time goes on, because your career is not defined by your start, right? Whatever you guys do in college and whatever your first job is, that does not define you. You will have multiple jobs, but the point being is like, I think that's what defined me initially. We had a hand go up here.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what you said before that when you were a level designer, you worked with the art team and the engineering team, as kind of like the middle, to combine both of them. And I was wondering, because you did a few stuff with animation and modeling at UT. Do you think it's necessary to have that kind of like art background and kind of be good at art to become a designer, level designer?
Great question. I'll just repeat it so everybody can hear it. So he's asking, do I think it's a good decision to have a background across the disciplines? Basically is what he's saying is, do I think it's beneficial to understand a little bit of engineering, a little bit of art? Yes. I think the best designers, and I'll even take it a step further, I think the best managers and the best leaders, especially when you get into management, upper management, senior director levels, I think the best ones are the ones who understand what it takes to make something. They understand the level of effort and they understand the scope. And so I see that all the time, right? Whenever you have a manager that doesn't understand how many hours it's going to take to code a system, or whenever you have a manager that doesn't understand how many hours it's going to take to break a character, you get disproportionate schedules. It doesn't work all the time. So in my opinion, yes, if you you don't have to understand everything, but especially if your goal in life is to be like a designer or a senior designer or a creative director, then it's good to understand, what does it take to build this art asset? What does it take to code this behavior? And even just for sympathy of your colleagues, right? Sometimes understanding your trades and the trades of your partners does go a long way. Yeah. Hey, John.
Simpler question. How long after you graduated with your degree did you get your first job at Fort Lauderdale?
Yes, the question was, how long after I graduated did I get my first job? Let's see, I graduated in May, and then I got that first job I got in July. So 2 months.
Okay. Follow up. I don't know how many of your old classmates that are maybe EGaDS members from around that time that were as serious as you were about wanting to do something related to games. Was that typical for your peer group?
Yeah, so the question was that typical across my classmates? No, it's not. It's not. Sometimes it can drag on. There's a handful of my classmates. I remember them. I still keep in touch with them. You guys will too. But there's a handful of people that were in the same boat as me and that got a job about 2 months, 3 months after we graduated. But yeah, the reality is that's not the norm. That's not the norm. It's very, very tough sometimes. And I mean, I'll give you this little anecdote, this little story. But I remember being a senior at UT. Dr. Paul Toprak. I went to his office. How many of y'all know Dr. Paul Toprak? Just curious. Okay, all right. Well, anyways, I go to his office and I'm thinking, dang, I've been applying everywhere. I just kept thinking to myself, like, I've been applying everywhere. I don't know what else I should be doing. Let me go to his office and let me see if he knows of any leads. Like maybe he knows of a job that I don't, right? He's gotta know something. He's got tentacles everywhere. So I go to his office and I remember he tells me, Esteban, entry-level design positions are very, very rare. And that's the truth. It's very hard to get an entry-level design position. So it just happened to be that you just have to find that one company, right? I think that's really the key. Is you just got to find that one company that is willing to take, is willing to take a risk, and is willing to, take you on, show you as you learn, show you as you go, and but in order to do that, you got to have those things that I mentioned earlier. I think the most prepared you are, and the better your portfolio is, I think the higher that chance is. But yeah, sometimes it can be very hard, especially for designers. And I'll just speak for designers for a bit, because by nature, there's like 5 programmers for every 1 designer, just by nature, right? It's just the distribution of a team. There's multiple artists for 1 designer. Usually there's 1 designer and you got your other 3 gameplay programmers, 3 artists. So by nature, in of itself, you are already dealing with a smaller pool of jobs. But that's why I think for people wanting to go into design, the easiest way to get in is through level design. Because with level designers, especially for some of the bigger games, and by bigger games I mean the open world games, right? Like the Red Dead Redemptions, the MMORPGs of the world, those games are so big that they require large amounts of level designers. They just need people to crank out the maps. They need people to build levels. So if you're trying to be a designer, that's like the easiest way to get in, because once again, there's a need for that. And that's what happened with me.
In a level design portfolio specifically, like what range of like different types of things would you like to see? Like, do you want 2D and 3D examples? Like, what looks good?
Great question. In a level design portfolio, what range do I like to see, 2D, 3D, across the spectrum? That's a great question. Because the game industry and the tech industry are some of those industries where it actually matters where your experience and your content lies. And the reason I say that is because when I've applied to jobs in the past, I got rejections because my content wasn't tailored to that specific genre. So for example, I had mobile game companies come back to me and say, oh, we decided to go someone else because you didn't have enough mobile experience. So now the best thing I can say is, I guess, how do you prepare for that, right? How do you anticipate that? Well, I would say for me, if you have 4 or 5, and that's why I said 4 or 5 specific, because having 2 pieces, having 3 pieces, that's too little in my opinion. Having 4 or 5 strong pieces, could be mods, could be levels, whatever, I would probably diversify a little bit. And I would show a little bit of breadth, but I would lean heavily on my focus. So maybe 3 of those designs are like in what I really excel at. And then maybe like the other 2 designs are just to show breadth, ability, could be. So, right, maybe have 3 levels that are representative of FPS, like first-person shooters. This is your bread and butter. 3 really nice designs, level designs with flows and gameplay elements. Okay, 3 strong ones on FPS. Then maybe have 1 that's on mobile, or have something else that to balance you off. You could do that. That could be an option. Another option could be that you just focus on one area and go all in, right? So you just want to focus on mobile, focus all your attention on mobile, and then specifically tailor it to that. But it is tricky. It is tricky because some companies will be looking for that. I mean, I'll use the word unicorn, right? They're looking for that. They're looking for somebody with experience in mobile, must have 3 years of experience in Unity, must know this, must know this, must know that. Oh, and by the way, he's got to know rigging in Maya or something like that. So it's a little bit tricky, but I think it's just having that strong portfolio and just finding your forte is probably the best advice I can give. Hey, yes.
So if you were to like try and specialize in level design, would it be good to like learn 3D modeling and texturing and stuff, or would it be better to like learn like create like playable prototypes, or like what exactly are they looking for like a level designer?
Good question. So what are they looking for a level designer? I mean, everybody's going to look for the blockout. Everybody's going to look for the thought process, blockout, and the actual implementation. So when during my time applying for level design jobs, it was pretty common, I'm pretty sure it still is, that they would ask a test of you. So you would apply to the company. Let's pretend, I'll just use a name, I'll use Gearbox. Let's pretend 50 people applied to Gearbox for a level design position. They truncate that to like 10. Then those 10, they sent out a test. And now, the best person that does the best job on that test gets to come in for like the in-person interview. So that was the case. So they would test you, they would send out the test so that they could judge your skill set. But the best tests, in my opinion, were the ones where they showed everything from conception to implementation. Meaning, if you had your paper doodles, then you had your Photoshop SketchUp, then you had your blockout, and then you had your full and implemented technical design with scripted elements. If you gave me all that, I can see the overall picture. Now, if you just presented a part of that or a section of that, then my picture is not as coherent. But those are the best tests I've seen, where you show everything, and also always have an answer. I tell this to designers all the time. Just always have an answer. Meaning, if I ask you, why did you set up the encounter that way? Why does the level end that way? Never answer with, oh, I don't know, or it was the quickest thing to do. Always give a strategic answer as to why the gameplay element was fulfilled.
So it's more about like user experience and like level flow than it is about like aesthetics and stuff, right?
It can be, depends on the company, but I think like if you can show the whole pipeline, that's probably what's going to make your case the best.
Gotcha.
Great question. Any more questions? All right. All right. Well, thank you all.
All right. Thank you guys for coming to Kickoff. We do have pizza over there, but that will wrap it up today. Thank you guys for coming.
They close super early. Well, I mean, they're not closed yet.
Okay, it might have been a different one. Someone just sent out a message in the news.
You got second draft, dude. I got drafted the board.
There's two options that I
Wow.
Sam.
For getting the snacks for tomorrow. I picked the most aggressive, loud ass.
The whole room was like,
It's very.
whatever you want.
That's why I'm definitely like.
Go for it. That sounds. Well, maybe not. Probably don't share pudding. Like,
No, they got the little snack cups, you know.
EA has fans.
I'm gonna go like
Yeah, I need to work on my portfolio carefully.
Oh wait, I don't get pizza.
yeah. I have like I don't have a good enough resume for like I also have like the one I used to get like I don't have like a ACT resume.
Alright, you also.
7-minute walk. We can add to it.
Is this gonna be like 10,000 for people who miss it? Is it? They're probably gonna clip this out.
It's streaming.
Oh, live?
Yeah, on
Hi.
our Twitch.
Hi.
Check out our Twitch. Oh wow. Brian, you get a power camera.